Hey out there, legal warriors. In this video, we're going to cover how to manage the police if you're being investigated or accused of a crime. It's a very important question. There's a lot of strategy involved, so if you're interested in this area of the law, stay tuned. This is the video for you. My name is Attorney Lance Fryrear. I'm a defense attorney in Linwood, Washington. My law firm's been defending people charged with crimes all throughout Washington state for more than 25 years. And I'm putting out these videos to help educate the public. So if you find this useful, please like and please subscribe. More people get to see it. More people get the help they need. Now I'm just going to jump right into it. So I've got a pretty big law firm. And I've got two ex-prosecutors here in the firm, and I was a prosecutor for 7 years. So for the most part, I have the role in this firm of dealing with a lot of the police contact that our clients have when they're being investigated for a crime. And there's been some questions in the comments about, hey, how do we manage police if they're investigating somebody for a crime? And I think there's basically three things that we're trying to do in choosing how we interact with the police or how our clients interact with the police. I think, number one, we're trying to influence what the actual officer thinks of the case, and sometimes that's possible and sometimes it's not. Number two, we're trying to get positive information into the police report that benefits the client, should the client either be arrested or charged, or should the case get sent to a prosecutor who's just going to read that report. Number three, we're trying to maximize the chances that the officer does not make a custodial arrest of our client, because that's super traumatic. And we have to realize that those are the main three things we're trying to do in deciding how we handle the police. So let's talk about number one, influencing what an officer thinks of the case. Now, in many situations, we would expect an officer to not be truthful. We would expect an officer dealing directly with a suspect to try to be their friend and try to sound like they believe things and try to use the lack of knowledge of the suspect about what the elements of a crime are to get them to admit things that sort of build that crime against the suspect. And if we've watched, interrogation videos or everything that we've got on YouTube all the time now, all of this real life crime, we can see it happen again and again, where a really skilled detective can sort of say, well, yeah, you only pushed her, you didn't hit her. And of course, yeah, you're right, I didn't hit her, I only pushed her. Well, admitting to that push in this very minimal example would likely be admitting to a crime. And so for the most part, that's why we don't want clients, suspects, individuals, you out there in the viewing public, talking to the police on your own, because you frankly aren't skilled or experienced enough, and when it's working with yourself, you don't have a very good view of where the dangers are and what's around the next corner. So oftentimes your attorney hopefully may reach out to that police officer on your behalf and sort of do what I call a sniff test, right? Hey officer, my name is such and such, an attorney. If they happen to be an ex-prosecutor, I was an ex-prosecutor for this year. Hey, what do you got here? What are you really looking at? What do you think about this case? Can my client actually help him or herself by talking to you or not? And now the commenters are going to say, oh, you should never talk to the police and all this. And while that is the law school answer, it's also a really dumb way to look at improving someone's position who may be innocent. We always have to use reasoned intelligence in trying to decide, can we improve someone's position? And so in these type of situations, your attorney may think, hey, the more hidden the officer is, the more playing games the officer is, well, now we can probably tell that officer has already made up their mind, and there's no way we're going to sort of move them off of their belief that something happened. It's almost a partisan belief that some officers have. Some officers take the idea that, hey, the victim said it, it's true, it's my job to charge in and execute. And some officers may have the idea, hey, I'm just here to record things, I'm not really going to take a position. But those partisan officers are going to be a lot more guarded in talking to the attorney, and that tells us something. Now, the officer can also be really forthcoming and say, hey, I don't think there's much here, but I've got to do my job to give your client a chance to talk, those type of things. An officer may offer a written statement as opposed to in-person interview. There's a lot less risk for that. And so there is something to be gained to try to find out where that officer stands in the investigation. And it's important. Why it's important is because that officer is the one that has the power to make an arrest. That officer is the one that has the power to refer a charge to a prosecutor to be charged. And most importantly, the officer has the power to decide that they're not going to refer a charge, or they're going to do a statutory referral where they have to send it to the prosecutor for a decision, but they're going to write in the report, hey, I don't think there's probable cause, or they're going to write a weak report where it's sort of communicating indirectly to the prosecutor, I don't think there's much here, you probably shouldn't charge this. And so that's why if we have a chance to help find out where the officer is and help influence that position, at times we will smartly and intelligently let a well-prepared client with the presence of an attorney submit to an interview with law enforcement if we think all these stars align and it's going to help them. And there's countless number of cases where an interview that we have guided a client through with law enforcement has led to a declining of very serious charges, which might not have come out that way otherwise. So that's why step one in managing the police is making that determination. That second thing we're talking about is trying to get positive information in the report. So what is the downside of taking the very safe approach is we don't talk to police, right? The downside is if it's a very serious accusation and that report necessarily goes to the prosecutor to make a decision, imagine you're the prosecutor. I used to be. You read the report, every single thing says that the suspect did everything wrong. They did the SA, or they did the major assault, or they shot the gun for no reason, or whatever it is. When there's only that version of events in the report and the officer is saying charge it, well, why wouldn't the prosecutor charge it then? Their guide, their Bible for the case says everything bad against the suspect because the suspect didn't say anything. And still, sometimes we have to not say anything. More often than not, we have to not say anything. But in certain situations, a really skilled attorney can make a determination that sometimes positive things can be said with very little risk to building the government's case. So in certain situations, even if we don't think we can influence what the officer thinks, we're trying to influence what's in the report to try to influence what the prosecutor thinks, the one who's making the charging decision. Because, of course, if we avoid a charge, then the case is over at that point. And so the black and white, we just don't talk to cops, is a very safe way and a very lazy way for attorneys to behave because you're giving up an opportunity to deal with the human element in the system. Remember, when we talk about the system's out to get you, the system doesn't care. Well, remember, there's no such thing. There's no, electronic entity called the system. There's a bunch of individuals that work as a group to do the legal justice system, what we call it. So we're trying to influence individuals that are involved in the investigation, arrest, and charging type situation to get them to do something favorable and hopefully more fair for the suspect. And then I think the third thing we have to worry about when we're trying to deal with police is we don't want to make it more likely that they're going to do a custodial arrest, right? If a police officer is trying to talk to a suspect, they pretty much will be thinking in their brain, hey, once I arrest them, they're much less likely to talk to me because now they're under arrest. I have to give them their Miranda warnings, all this type of stuff. And so we usually want law enforcement to be cautious in not cutting off that opportunity to potentially talk to the suspect. And so if an officer comes knocking on someone's door, we don't want to necessarily say, screw you, officer, I'm not talking to you, because they might just arrest you then. You might say, hey, I am interested in telling my side of the story, but my mommy and daddy always told me I should get some legal advice first, so how can I reach out to you, right? That type of thing. It's better to let the officer have a reasonable belief that they may be able to talk to you in the future with or without an attorney to discourage their reasons for making a custodial arrest. And I get asked by clients all the time, why does an officer go make an arrest in some cases and not others? And I have my theories from working with police for a long time, but they're more likely to make an arrest, one, if they're taking it personally, right? the type of case they're investigating means something to them based upon their life experiences or their family or loved one's life experiences. On an essay type case, hey, if someone that was close to them were a victim of that type of thing, well, they're more likely to be angry and arrest someone who's a victim of that type, who's a suspect of that type of thing. Additionally, sometimes I think an officer who really thinks someone is guilty but has a really bad case, sometimes they'll make an arrest, in my opinion, just so they can get that arrest on their record, okay? Because if we get arrested, we have an arrest on our official Washington State Patrol record. So sometimes an arrest on a really weak case may happen because while they don't think the case is going to get charged necessarily, now at least there's this mark against the person they think is guilty. And I think finally the third time when they make an arrest is, hey, they're working with the prosecutor. They think they have a really good case. They're going to start the case right away, and they get an advantage when they start the case with the suspect in custody. That's going to vary in different counties. I see that more in King County than I do other counties, but it does make a lot of sense. If they make an arrest to start the case, now they can ask for a large bail. They can put pressure on the suspect. They can make the suspect use their funds. Now they don't have money to pay for an attorney and have a better defense. And there's a lot of reasons why they get an advantage if they're going to start a case by making an arrest. Although if you're in a county where they're less likely to rush file cases, such as Snohomish County, we're less likely to see that as a strategy decision by law enforcement. Again, these are my opinion, but opinion from doing this for 30 plus years on both sides of the aisle. So what's the takeaway from this situation? The takeaway is one size does not fit all when it comes to trying to deal with police when they're investigating a crime. We want to avoid mistakes, but we also want to avoid losing opportunity to improve our position. And you should not try to do that on your own. You simply don't know enough, okay? Even inexperienced attorneys do not know enough to play this risky endeavor. But, higher risk, higher reward, but calculated risk is what we always consider in deciding what we want to advise our clients to do. And hopefully, if you're working with an attorney, they'll do the same thing for you. So I hope you found that useful. If so, please like and please subscribe. More people get to see it. More people get the help they need. More importantly, if you get a legal problem, a criminal matter in Washington State, feel free to reach out to our firm. If we get on board, we'll listen to what happened, we'll identify a way forward, and we will be there for you. Thank you.